Welcome back, beer tubers. Today we're taking a look at a beer from Wells, and this is their Sticky Toffee Pudding Ale. I saw this one at my local shop and liked the name of it. I assume this is one of those Wells beers that's along the lines of their double chocolate and their banana bread beer. It's 5% ABV. They call it ale with natural flavor and caramel color added. So yeah, I assume it's like those beers, 5%. And other than that, haven't heard whether it's good, bad, or anything else. Got it poured out. Looks like a lighter side of brown. There's a little bit of like dark burnt orange notes to it. No really red. I mean, it is pretty much a caramel toffee looking colored beer. They definitely use the coloring to kind of nail that characteristic. The head on there is kind of like an off-white verging into tan head. Decent amount of carbonation coming up. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, get some toffee, some breadiness. Real sweet. It's kind of like you get the caramel colored kind of malt, and then you get something that's more of like someone took some caramel and melted it into the beer, and you kind of get that characteristic. I don't know, a little bit of like a graininess. I don't know if that's maybe a slight like oxidation type of note. Trying to see if there's much else. I mean, it's very bready, caramelly. So I mean, it fits the name well on the nose. But let's take it in. Cheers. Yeah, like big time toffee. Yeah. Toffee caramel, a little bit of like nuttiness in there. It's on the sweeter side, but it's not too bad as far as being like overly cloying. Most of the beer up front is where the sweetness hits. Definitely getting that sort of sticky toffee note, appropriate name for the beer. It's got a range of. It definitely feels like there's definitely some natural caramel sort of flavor to it, and then there's somewhere you can tell it's like, oh, that's the natural flavoring they're adding, because it tastes like you're kind of chewing on a bit of a caramel candy, and then you get more of that malty caramel note, that toffee note, some sweeter bread notes. The finish is actually not overly sweet. It dries out. I think I'm maybe getting a little bit of a hot bitterness on the finish. Yeah, the finish kind of adds a bit of a, like an earthy, like Fuggles sort of type of hop characteristic. And it actually dries out enough that it doesn't remain overly sweet. So the beer is actually fairly balanced. I mean, it's definitely a malty beer. The finish, though, it does have that sort of that grainy character I was getting on the nose. I don't know what that is, if that's an oxidation characteristic, because it is kind of dry. I don't want to say it's quite wet cardboard, but it's definitely got some like grain characteristics to it that make it a little less smooth on the finish. So overall, it's kind of what I expected going into this beer, knowing their other beers. As you guys say, across the pond does what it says on the tin. And so that being said, I'm just going to go straight up C with it. It's pretty average. I think it's worth trying if you kind of like the idea of like that toffee pudding kind of characteristic to a beer. I think you might be able to get that with malts, but you know, they decided to add a little extra flavoring into it. But it still tastes like a beer. It's not overly done with the additional flavorings. So straight up C for me. Sticky Toffee Pudding Ale from Wells. Yeah, if it's part of that line of like banana bread, the double chocolate. We're trying, you know, it's a good intro beer for people getting into beers as well. So it's gonna wrap it up. Until next time, please comment and subscribe. Cheers.